Greetings, family, and welcome to the Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative Presentation and Training. I'm your host, Brother DJ, along with Baba Hekima Kenyama. Greetings, Baba. How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Good to hear your voice.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Likewise. And we've got Baba Oshi on the board. Greetings, Baba Oshi. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, DJ. I'm doing well. Hey, Baba, how are you?
Hey, brother. We got a little background noise.
Well, it ain't here.
Yeah, just
okay.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we'll go ahead and move forward. And greetings to the family, those of you who have already called in to the switchboard, and certainly to those of you who are listening in online all over the world. We would like to invite you to our 2-hour broadcast tonight. This particular conversation is in 2 parts. The first part will be with myself, along with Baba Hekima, discussing the fundamental aspects of Us Lifting Us, this particular process and why it is good for people of African descent globally. Again, it's a 2-hour conversation, so the first part will be a dialogue with myself and Baba Hekima going over the fundamental aspects of not only Ulu, but also of cooperative economics, or what we tend to refer to as family-centered economics. We'll go into detail about our organization in an attempt to win you over, so to speak, so that we can sell you on becoming a member of this fine organization. And then we'll take a short break at the top of the hour, and we'll switch gears. When we come back from the break, we'll be joined by 2 additional board members who will walk us through a document called our 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy, our 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy. They will read through all 10 points and really focus on one particular point where they'll formulate a discussion around that particular point. And it's important to note, family, that both calls, both conversations are intended to be interactive. So at any time you have a question or a comment, feel free to push the number 1 on your phone, push the number 1 on your phone, and it will highlight your phone number, and we'll open up your line to give you an opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. Again, family, anytime you may have a question, we certainly encourage the dialogue and the discussion. If there's anything that we are going into that you're not clear about, that you may have some questions about, feel free to ask those questions, and we will certainly answer them to the best of our abilities. Did you have anything you wanted to add before we get started with the conversation, Baba Hekima?
Yes, brother, and thank you for that introduction. And I just want to encourage brothers and sisters listening in from around the world. It's to everybody's benefit that if you have an opportunity to do so, go to our website, and from our home page, there are 3 videos. The top video is a kind of a primer or basics in terms of Ulu. It's about a 17-minute video. We encourage everyone to look at that video, and also there's a link below the video to request additional information. Some things that you want to have in your hand to take a really good close look at as you evaluate Ulu as a possible business for yourself. That would be all I would have to add, Brother DJ.
And again, thank you for that, Baba Hekima. So we'll go ahead and get started with the first half of the conversation. And again, family, at any time you have a question, feel free to push the number 1 to be a part of the conversation. And we highly encourage it in both hours, family. That's how we get abreast and informed of what it is that we can do to liberate ourselves economically. So with that being said, Baba, give us, the origins of Ulu, so to speak. How did it come about for folks who have never heard the acronym Ulu? Give us a little bit of background information on where that comes from and how this particular organization got started.
Yes, thank you, brother. Well, Ulu, of course, as you indicated, is an acronym for Us Lifting Us, and the full name of the company is Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, and we're a limited liability company, so you'll see an LLC behind that name. But we got started as a call from our people, really. I think in this particular stage in our movement and our history in this country and globally, it became obvious some years ago that we had to give greater attention to the economic aspects of our struggle, our movement, our condition in cities throughout the world and in the rural as well. And so as a result of that call, a handful of us here in Atlanta came together in 2011, and after 2 years, we formed the final version of ULU, Us Lifting Us, again as a limited liability company. And during that 2-year period, we looked at other economic alternatives throughout the world. We brought in consultants, and we just simply did our due diligence. We looked at our people's history, of course, in this country, and we arrived at the conclusion that to answer the question of what we would do to gain greater economic control or economic power in our communities, we knew that we had to come up with something that was different, a new model, a new paradigm, so to speak. And so we looked at, of course, cooperative economics. In 1966, with the founding of Kwanzaa and the Nguzo Saba, each year, and for some of us, it's ongoing. It's not just celebrated once a year, but we celebrate the 7 principles, and one of the principles, the 4th night, is Ujamaa, which is generally defined as cooperative economics. And many of our scholars and leaders have been encouraging us to practice cooperative economics or group economics. And when we looked at it closely, we felt that to some extent we hadn't gone far enough. We talk about group involvement, but ULU brings it to another level in terms of group ownership. And throughout our discussion, the first hour and the second hour, it's really important for people to grasp ownership and the importance of ownership. Ownership is the glue in everything that we do as ULU. So when we, again, did our studies, we found that there were progressive movements globally that were using cooperatives, mutual aid, mutual groups, group-owned formations, and of course, as a legal standing, of course, one of the business models in almost every country in the world and in every state in the United States is cooperatives, generally called co-ops. And so we looked at those statutes as well, and we saw that there was much that we could gain from establishing a new business organization or business platform based on cooperative principles and structuring it so that hundreds, eventually thousands, and eventually tens of thousands and even millions of individuals and institutions could join together and create a large platform that we could use to add to what it is that we were already doing to create a greater leverage as we sought to control the economics of our communities locally and globally. So that's pretty much a background. I'll just say that one of the institutions that gave us a lot of instructions was a co-op out of Spain that started in 1956 with, I think, 5 students and a Catholic priest first producing a small heater, very small heater, and formed a worker cooperative. And that particular co-op has grown to where they employ right at 100,000 people, mostly the people who started it, the Basque people of Spain, but some of their installations employ other people around the world. And so we gained great instruction from that. But we also looked at co-ops in Canada, Italy, the UK. We have one member in Houston, Texas, and we haven't spoken with him lately, and we need to reach out to him. Brother Wawa, W-A-W-A. He's originally from from Senegal. No, not from Senegal, from Cameroon. And we interviewed him as well. He was instrumental in introducing cooperative society legislation to his government for co-ops when they first got started. And then after the statute was passed, he then worked to build co-ops, in particular in the rural and support co-ops. So, and some of the people that were also brought in as consultants were people who had gone to Spain to study the underground cooperatives. And so what we ended up with is something different than anything that we had ever seen, because what we found was that there were positive aspects to almost everything that we looked at. And so what we ended up with is what's called a multi-stakeholder or a hybrid cooperative formation with many elements, which suited our needs and suits our need in particular because our mission is broader than the co-ops that we looked at. Most of the co-ops we looked at, or structures or alternative structures, had a very limited objective or mission. Ulu's mission was very much political. It talked about gaining economic control of our community as the foundation for social control. And so, and we looked at it not only locally but globally. So as we discuss Ulu and as brothers and sisters study it, don't study it just as a food co-op in your community or credit union, which is a co-op in your community, but look at it as an institution whose mission is to give us the capacity to rule our world, to give us the capacity to gain control of the economics of our community and nations and position us to compete and to stand as, as mature brothers and sisters, nations in the world, and to demand and command respect from other communities around the world. So that's essentially how we got started, and a little background in terms of who we are, Ulu, the co-op.
Thank you for that, Baba. And so, within the continental United States, of course, it's often said that black people have over $1 trillion that flows through our hands every year in this country with very little to show for it. And so as we began to put together the fundamentals of Ulu, like you said, coming out of the think tank and deciding to structure this particular company as a for-profit entity, but employing cooperative principles, what are some of the things that, in terms of the thought and process that went into a serious attempt to galvanize that more than $1 trillion that flows through our hands every year? What is Ulu's primary job in reference to that deluge of wealth that flows through our hands every year?
Yeah. Before I answer the question, I'd really like, and we've done this the last couple of weeks, and I think, we need to do it more often. But just to give the family a good understanding of just how much $1 trillion really is. Now, we also know in our community that there's levels of economy. If the U.S. Federal government says that $1 trillion flows through our fingers, then you know it's got to be more than that, because there's another underground economy out there as well. But let's say that $1 trillion flowed through our fingers. To get a good understanding of just how much $1 trillion is, if someone placed $1 million in front of you right now, and then the next hour, just 60 minutes from now, they placed another $1 million in front of you, and the next hour they placed another $1 million in front of you, and that continued all day, all week, all month, all year, again, at the rate of $1 million an hour around the clock, it would take 114 years before you would reach $1 trillion. And so it's said that that's the kind of potential power and wealth that flows through our fingers, and as you indicated, there's very little to show for it. Maybe in the aggregate 1% overall, or 1.5%. Brother Claude Anderson speaks to that very succinctly. And so ULU is created as a tool to tap into that potential power flow and to harness and redirect a sizable percentage of that wealth and keep it in our possession long enough to build institutions, to create jobs, to create a whole economy. And see, the beauty of what other people have done, and I think that's proper to call it beauty, because the Koreans use systems to tap into that flow for the benefit of their community. The Chinese, the Jews, other groups use strategies and institutions to tap into that flow and redirect or divert resources to their communities, and in many cases also to their countries. It's not just to their communities locally. Much of that goes back to their homeland as well. And so the ULU Business Formation, the LLC, is created so that at a point when the scenario we talk about is where we pool our resources to create hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, all owned by us. These are for-profit enterprises that are group-owned. And with our business base and the way we're structured and the fact that we're owners, we, maybe in a very specific way, in our presentation on the website, we have one target we call Target X. We want to, within a relatively short span of time, redirect and harness a minimum of 1/2 of 1% of the flow that we're talking about. Now, we're talking about ULU, just in ULU. 1/2 of 1% would put us at a $5 billion a year business enterprise, and that's not a huge business, but that's one of our goals, to become a $5 billion enterprise. The co-op that we mentioned earlier, the Mondragon Cooperative, is in excess of a $20 billion co-op, but of course, 1956 to now. So that's one of our goals. But just to share with you what can happen with a mechanism, a platform, an infrastructure that was able to do that, not only would we provide needed products, goods, and services to our community, create a lot of jobs, but we would be in a position with just capturing 1/2 of 1%. If we had a 1% net profit as a success. In other words, if our businesses generated just 1% net profit after all expenses, we would be in a position to return $50 million a year to our members in the way of a direct return, or what's typically called a dividend for other kinds of structures, but a direct return. But that comes after, creating jobs, charity to organizations in the community, and doing other things to empower the community. So when we think about the more than $1 trillion that flows through our fingers, it only makes sense that if we're serious about our empowerment as a people, that we would structure institutions that were group-owned, that would give us the capacity to tap into that flow, that potential power, and to divert as much of that flow as we could and keep it in the possession of the collective. Now, with our individual businesses, we do that as well. But usually, and in most cases, that only fuels an individual or family or small group. But it's not structured, in most cases, to empower the community. And so we are structured to empower the community. And hence our name, Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative. So we exist to develop and empower the African community, the black community, locally and globally.
Outstanding. And Baba Hekima, for those who may be listening, or for those who are listening that are business owners, that are entrepreneurs, of course we know that we advocate and strive for cooperative economics, family-centered economics, group ownership. However, we're not opposed to entrepreneurship and black business ownership. Can you kind of explain to those who may be interested in ULU and that are also business owners the unique position of ULU as it relates to black business ownership and entrepreneurship in general?
Yes. Thank you for the question. I guess first thing, as a business, you can become an ULU member. That business can actually become an ULU member, acquire equity in the company, and profit from ULU's success, overall success. And so if you're a business, generally what you want to do is have multiple income streams, and ULU can be an additional income stream for your business. Also, depending on the products, good, or service that you provide, there could be opportunities for us to partner with you. There may be a service that you have that we have a need for. And so we're looking for that all the time. And while we champion group-owned enterprises, we know that there are sole proprietors, partnerships, and other forms of business in the community. And we want to be thought of as your best partner, because the success of ULU will mean that we will create banks, insurance companies, other financial institutions, and those institutions are going to be friendlier and more nimble than the very conservative institutions that you have to deal with now. One of the keys to success in the Mondragon Cooperative is that very early they created their own bank. And because of the way that they were structured, they were able to give more interest on deposits than any of the other banks in the area. So they received massive infusion of capital that they could then turn around to not only fund the co-op efforts, but to also be a funding source for businesses in the community. And so overall, you'll hear us very often talking about capitalism and the negative aspects of capitalism. We refer to it most often as predatory capitalism, monopoly capitalism, and of course, that structure, that thinking in the world is very demonic. It's very negative and very destructive. Now, the type of free enterprise that we practice in the community, in terms of an individual going into business or a small group of individuals, in other words, it's our hustle, and so we're not referring to that as predatory capitalism. It's a form of capitalism at the very base of the capitalist structure, but they're going to always be, I shouldn't say always, but for the foreseeable future, there are going to be many, many more independently owned businesses and enterprise in our community than group-owned enterprises. But we can bond and we can create a synergy and utilize the group-owned platform to give greater strength and muscle and direction to our overall movement. So it's both and not, in other words, what's the saying? Both in and whatever it is. In other words, it's not either or, it's both and. That's what I was about to say. So we welcome brothers and sisters who own their own businesses. As a matter of fact, if you look at our membership list on our website, and anybody can go there, and it's a fairly up-to-date list of our members. If you, at our homepage, just click member/owners, and then click the turtle, and a PDF will appear with the list of almost all of our members. We've just had a couple of members who wanted to be anonymous. Everybody else is listed there. And so when you stroll down that list, you'll see a good number of businesses, as well as you'll see some couples and then other individuals.
Thank you for that, Baba Hekima, and certainly appreciate you sharing that aspect of ULU as it relates to black business ownership and entrepreneurship. That's extremely important, and I oftentimes describe it just understanding that ULU is definitely not opposed to black business ownership. We support it, and at the same time, ULU represents that social safety net, so to speak. Well, it's here to support you in your entrepreneurship endeavors, in your black business success. But at the same time, we're in the business of creating group-owned cooperatives that provide that foundation by which our entrepreneurial creativity can also thrive and be successful. So just like you said, that was an excellent point you made. It's not an either or, it's both and. They are complementary.
DJ, let me yes, go back a bit, because I do think I would be remiss, and we would be remiss, if we didn't emphatically state that the discussion in the community overall has been that the solution was to go into business and for us to support those businesses. And the notion is that would make a quantum difference. Our position is it really doesn't make a quantum difference, because our support of businesses in the community, just our support, does not in and of itself provide a managing, steering, coordination, synergy. And what we do when we don't have a group-owned platform in the community, such as ULU, by default, we leave the international bankers, the chambers of commerce, the regional economic planning bodies, we leave those entities essentially as the CEOs of the activity that we're involved in. Because we're not planning, we're not forecasting, we're not, we don't have institutes, we don't have think tanks, and so they do. And so the good old boys, by default, are the CEOs, the leaders of the economic activity, even when we own the businesses. You know, they look at legislation, they look at ordinance, they look at trends. And so we think that it's prudent, it's necessary, and responsible that we look at how we can grow our own infrastructure, economic infrastructure, planning aspects, and we think that the co-op model, like ULU, is a perfect platform for that need as well. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that was a very important point, and I'm glad you jumped in because, like you said, that helps to create even greater context, for this discussion, and hopefully it adds to the value that our listeners are experiencing as well. But with that being said, Baba Hekima, give us some of the absolutes, so to speak, things that govern Uplifting Us Economic Development Cooperative, the structure, certain things that are required for folks that are taking a serious interest in becoming members. What are some of the requirements for folks that are listening?
Yes, thank you for that. Just remember, if when one decides to become a member of ULU, in essence, they are becoming a full partner in a limited liability company. It's a business. It's a for-profit limited liability company. And we're governed, well, of course, we're registered with the state of Georgia as a LLC. But the governing document is a 22-page operating agreement. It lays out the structure and the process for running the institution. And that's available to every member. As a matter of fact, it's available to people who are not members yet, but by request. Now, members can be individuals, married couples, or institutions. And I don't often speak of it, and I don't think we've mentioned it probably in a year. We also have another class of membership that's custodial membership. We have a few members that are less than 16 years old. Some of them are 9, 10, 11-year-olds. So a member can take out another membership for a minor. Now, that's not a voting member, but they can begin to build equity in the company for that minor, and it's a way of beginning to build economic wherewithal, economic assets for that young person. But generally, individuals, business, married couples, and businesses join. Members do not have to be U.S. citizens, such that we have members now in several countries around the world, but we're formatted where we can have members anywhere. At this point, well, I shouldn't say at this point, at no point is there a limit to how many members we can have. We really want ultimately to have more than 1 million members. Membership is $50, and as members, and only members, can acquire equity. In other words, members, whether they're business, married couple, or institution, have the right to acquire equity in the company, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But with our memberships, what we do, we elect a board of directors, 9-member board of directors, and with our membership, we also ratify or approve governing documents. So governing documents or resolutions or whatever. So this is a member-controlled environment, 1 member, 1 vote with elected leadership. Members have only 1 vote, but members can acquire as much equity in the company as they choose to and can afford. a person's equity account, once it reaches $1,000, is issued a certificate, ownership certificate, and which is one of the elements to qualify for profit sharing. And again, there's no limit to the number of units that a member can acquire, but irrespective of how many units a member owns, a member only has one vote. And again, members can be anywhere in the world. Now, as I indicated a little earlier, we expect to have more than 1 million members. That's part of our goal. Now, in terms of history, we know that there were more than 6 million members of the UNIA-ACL under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. Just to give brothers and sisters a sense of scale, again, a unit is $1,000. For every 1,000 units secured by our membership, that's $1 million. Again, for every 1,000 units acquired or secured by our members, that's $1 million. We are structured so that we can do that over and over again. And we mentioned earlier that we have a goal of having more than 1 million members. If as we grow, let's say that we have 1 million units having been secured by our membership. 1 million units at $1,000 per unit, that's $1 billion. We can do that as well. The question or the point that I want to make is, and this is different, and I really want people to understand this, is what we do with the monies and other resources that we aggregate, because it's more than money. It's talent, skills, energy, ingenuity. What we do is direct those resources to build and run for-profit co-op businesses in local communities that provide a needed good or service, they create jobs, they give to charity, and they generate a profit. And part of that profit is used to reinvest and also to reward our members with a return. So in terms of scale, again, for every 1,000 units secured by our members, that's $1 million to invest in for-profit businesses. One of the things that most people are going to recognize ULU for, and it's really a primary benefit, is creating jobs. Brother, when you spoke earlier about entrepreneurship, there are a lot of brothers and sisters that are in business for themselves or want to be or seeking to be in business for themselves. As ULU builds, their need to be their own boss, so to speak, and to be rewarded for their labor fairly, it can be realized by becoming a ULU member and a worker in a worker-owned environment inside of ULU. So a lot of us who we got our business cards and we got our shingles out, and and when you look at the top of our shoes, they're shiny and sparkly, but you look at them from the bottom and they got holes in them. Not every business person is successful, but we want to encourage people to do whatever you have to do to be in charge of your human resources and the value that is in you as a person. So I'll just say that I just mentioned that because we had an opportunity to talk with a couple, I think out of New York, and who was dead set on being in business for themselves. Once they understood the ins and outs of ULU, they preferred that kind of environment where it was a group situation. It wasn't so stressful as an individual business is very often, and the rewards and security built in and we anticipate having benefits and again, a work environment that is controlled by us as member owners. I'll stop there because you know I'll go far afield, and you'll have a job reeling me back in.
Oh no, it's certainly all good, and I'm sure our current members and our prospective members are getting a lot from this particular discussion, and so we're right at about 18 minutes left in the broadcast. So I do want to give the call-in number just in case those of you who are listening in online are looking to call in. And the call-in number is 319-527-6202. Again, that's 319-527-6202. And if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and push the number 1 on your phone, push the number 1 on your keypad, and we'll open up your line to allow you an opportunity to ask a question or give a comment. Family, definitely appreciate the dialogue and the insight in the education you're providing for us this evening, Baba Hekima. So you've gone into the fundamentals of ULU, our cooperative principles. I also want to hammer down on something that is also extremely important, in that ULU is only open to those of us who are of Black African descent. Just in case the listeners did not know that was a criteria, can you explain why we take that position and even state so clearly in our operating agreement?
Yeah, and it's also stated very, very well on the membership application. On our website, if you click join, you can read through the membership application. It's not only a membership application, but it's also certain things that you agree to. And one of the things you agree to or affirm is that you're a person of Black African descent. And we're very intentional in that regard. We're building this for us, hence the name Us Lifting Us. And we're unapologetic about that. And one of the things that people don't take full advantage of and don't think of, there is a fundamental right. It's called the right of association. You have the right to associate with who you choose to associate. A lot of times we look at it in the reverse, so we take advantage of that, and that's a human right. That's a basic human right, and it's spoken of in international documents as well. One of the things I failed to mention, Brother DJ, and I think we need to cover it, is our current projects. Brothers and sisters, when you look on our website and go through our presentation, you see that our primary business model is the Us Lifting Us market and exchange, what we call the ULU mark for short. So our primary business model and what we think we can have the most bang for the buck is to acquire a large edifice on a scale of 125 to 150,000 square feet, the size of a Lowe's or Home Depot or a regular Walmart, a big box store, and then to retrofit it and create many departments, divisions, and platforms. Some of the things that would occur in there is a farmer's market, a very large consignment component. This would be a shopping cart environment with products, goods, and services from around the world, from anywhere from clothing to skincare to ceramics, whatever. Very large area dedicated to consignment, because brothers and sisters in the community and from around the world create products. We're very creative, but we do not have friendly outlets for the products, goods, and services that we have to offer. The ULU Mart would be that. We also would have a weekly auction. I mentioned farmers market already, a thrift component, a movie theater / event complex for any number of events, a coffee shop and networking lounge, office space for rent, an area for medical and massages and things of that nature. But most of the space would be dedicated to stores, specialty stores, booths, kiosks, tabletop space, floor space for rent. We would also deal with barter and trade, possibly a credit union or other financial services and institutions in the space, business incubator. So a lot of entertainment, education, and we often talk about it being alive with the sounds, the smells, and the vibration of an African marketplace. And this would serve as a anchor institution for what it is we need to do in the whole community. And this would also be a situation where, let's say, a junior high school person could acquire tabletop space and start a business right there in the Ulu Mart and build it such that that person would outgrow the marketplace and find themselves in a freestanding business and have support. And so all of those dimensions. Now, the wisdom of our membership as we are building towards that edifice, and we want to duplicate those in several cities, the wisdom of the membership says that we should start a small project now with the resources that we already have in hand for the most part. And we looked into the bigger idea and pulled out the coffee shop and networking lounge. As a matter of fact, we've actually modified it as coffee house and networking lounge. It looks like the name will be Cafe Ulu with the subtitle Coffee and Love. And we want to have these around the country and possibly around the world as just places that speak to us, lifting us. And one of the beautiful things about all Ulu businesses is that not only is the community able to secure a needed product, good, or service, but with every transaction, they're going to be informed that they can be an owner as well. When you think about that, is that with part of your advertisement and part of your DNA is that when you do business with your people, you let them know, and as a matter of fact, more and more people will take advantage of it, they can be owners as well. So it won't be a situation where we will be doing business with you, Brother DJ, because you my brother. A lot of these businesses, we're going to be owners. We may only have one unit, or we may only have a few dollars and building towards a unit, and we may have multiple units. A church can be a member. A sorority can be a member. A business, a tire shop can be a member. A barber can be a member. So, and then we also are excited about a group of brothers inside of Ulu who are seeking to form a technology division and manufacture technology products for the general public. And we're still working through that. And so those are some of the things that, and the coffee shop and networking lounge, if we find space tomorrow, and we actually are looking at space tomorrow, if it satisfies our needs, we'll secure it and begin the process of building the Cafe Ulu. First one here in Atlanta, and then we'll scatter those throughout the country and eventually around the world. But our main project is the marketplace. But as we continue to build, we will have businesses in every sector, whether it's hospitality, energy, transportation, agriculture, and most of the businesses I predict that we will ever own will be acquisitions, businesses that are already in existence that for whatever reason are up for sale, and that we go in and we acquire those businesses. Hopefully we acquire the skill sets, the knowledge that and goodwill that those businesses have built up over the years. And so not every business that Ulu owns and operates will be a startup. Some of them will be acquisitions as well. I thought I wanted to cover, because a lot of times people think that we're just putting out theory, but far from that. We are actually doing grunt work to build the models that people can see, touch, feel, do business with, benefit from, and ultimately receive a direct return as member owners.
And again, thank you for that, Baba Hikima. For folks that are, seriously considering membership in Ulu, individuals, families, businesses, or organizations, where can they go for information about the organization?
Our website, usliftinus.com, and when you get there, go to the home page or the main page, and there's probably too much information on the website. So if you read the first page, the home page, and look at the top video, you'll have as much information as you need to make an informed decision. And from there, click Join to fill out your application online. If you don't want to fill it out online, you can print the application out and mail it with a check or money order, but you can fill it out online, submit it, and also pay online. There's a tab right beside the Join tab that says Pay/Contribute. And if you need to reach out to us, our email address is info@usliftinus.com, info@usliftinus.com, and our phone number is 404-592-2780. I'll repeat that again, 404-592-2780. And one of the most useful tools we have is this Thursday night call. And I would encourage brothers and sisters who are listening to come back and join us again next week, but bring someone with you. Three-way, a friend, a comrade, a relative into the call. I would encourage you also to put us on speakerphone and, and have a group setting, and after the broadcast, have a discussion, formulate questions, and shoot them to us anyway. Call us. There's a feedback form on the website as well. All of the interaction and contact that we have with brothers and sisters who are concerned about our welfare and who are taking a serious look at Ulu, all of it really helps to strengthen the process. And so again, usliftinus.com, info@usliftinus, 404-592-2780. I still guess we got a few more minutes. I thought we would be right up on.
We do.
Yeah.
Well, we do.
Let me just say this. When you consider the Ma'afa, what we've been through as a people, the persecution, the slaughter, the degradation, the exploitation, the domination, everything that we can think of, there have been very few people who have been exploited and mistreated to the extent that we have. If they have, they're exterminated. They no longer exist. And there are groups of people who, when invaders went against them, wiped every last one of them off the map. Or there's only a relic of them left. And what I'm getting to is that a people And again, we exist as more than 1 billion people on the planet. I'm talking about Africans. We exist in almost every scenario, wherever you go in the world, as on the bottom rung of society after society after society, in community after community and community. At some point, we're going to come out of the fog, and hopefully we're coming out of the fog that we've been in, the miseducation. And one of the things, it's imperative that we get clear that if we do not control the economics of our own communities and nations, then the best we can do is be high-class servants. I mean, we're servants. No people have ever reached the pinnacle of respect and power in the world that did not also control their own economics.
Right.
And so economic control and wherewithal is an imperative. And especially for us when we look at our history. I mean, why are we continuing, when we look at our history, to put our hands out as beggars and expect, others to satisfy our needs? We know better, but we got to do better. Us lifting us. So the system that we're laying out is a appropriate response for a people who know emphatically that they're being dominated and oppressed and exploited. And that the tool is fashioned for the specific purpose of giving us the capacity to incrementally gain greater and greater control of the economics of our community, with the goal of reaching a level where Africans are eye level, seeing eyeball to eyeball with all other people in the world. That's the only healthy position. It's not healthy when anyone has to look up to others. But if there is an imbalance, let it be the other direction this time. I mean, it's
sure.
We've got to get to that. So we have a responsibility. We're big and bad, and we're giving birth to these babies, and we're not handling our business. And I know I'm sure we're at the end of the call by now. So don't let me start preaching. And but I get it from you, Brother DJ. You always say we have to reach maturity and stand up as women and men in the world, and that's it's time.
Yeah. And without, leaving a legacy for our children and future generations, what do we have to show for our time on this planet? And so that's how serious this is. That's how serious this is. And so, we know that it is time for this bold move, as you always say, this strategic decision that hundreds of our people and eventually thousands on into the millions will make, and that is to be a member of Us Lifting Us Economic Development Cooperative. If you had any questions, hopefully we were able to answer them in our dialogue. If not, then feel free to go to our website. All of the information is there. You can also watch, again, as Baba Hekima said, the presentation, get familiar with the 10 points. And when we come back on the other side, we'll be joined by 2 additional board members. We'll be joined by Baba Oshi and Baba Kimbizi, who will walk us through the 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy. Thank you, Baba Hekima, and stay tuned, family.
Thank you, brother.
All right, family, we're back on the other side. And we're joined by Baba Oshi and Baba Kimbizi. Greetings, brothers. How y'all doing?
I'm doing fine, Brother DJ. Excellent first hour of the program with you and Baba Hekima. Outstanding. And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting some dialogue in for this hour program with me and Baba Kimbizi.
Greetings,
yes,
DJ.
Sir. Yes.
Greetings, Baba Oshi.
Greetings, Baba.
Greetings.
Good to be on the call.
Definitely. Yes. Good to hear both of your voices. And again, family, we're joined by our 2 additional board members who will take the time and walk us through the 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy. The floor is yours, brothers.
Well, thank you, Brother DJ. We appreciate it. And how you doing, Baba Kimbizi? How you doing today?
I'm excited, Baba Oshi. Excited, and we're living in such a critical historical moment. The opportunities are abounding everywhere around us, and we have a program and a plan that's going to catapult our people into global leadership. So I'm excited.
I am too. You know, I know that there are many of our people who are very saddened because of the election and now because of the implementation of programs and policies that truly will hurt our people, but because we don't understand the importance of being collective, of pulling our resources and doing for ourselves, we rely too much on the idea that we could be equal in this society, and unfortunately it's not going to happen. Just like what just recently happened to LeBron James, and he said, it doesn't make any difference. You can be as much money as you have, as much fame as you can have, and so forth and so on. He didn't say this. He said, you know, being a black man is still very difficult, you know. But it reminded me that you can have all of that, and you can still be you know what I mean. And so,
yes, sir.
So that's the reality. And so we need to understand that nobody is going to do for us but us. And we must come to the reality of start making that happen. And Ulu is the best place to start. It is the best place to start. Just as Baba Akima said in the first hour, that churches, individuals, organizations, jobs, businesses, all of them can be a part of us lifting us. They all can be members of us lifting us. All of them can contribute and buy shares in us lifting us. This is the Economic Development Cooperative program for our people that must begin to take hold, and I hope and I know that it will. I'm going to read the 10-point program that we have, the 10-point appeal and plan for the new black economy. And this program that we worked on, the current events and the general unrest of the times call for radical change. The following points provide practical and necessary steps for a new and positive existence for us today and for the future generations. And I think that's what's really important, the future generations. That, you know, I have grandsons, you know, and I know you might have some grandkids, and you want to hopefully see them, you know, be able to fulfill their dreams, to be able to compete and so forth. And this program will help that. Number one, as black people, we take full responsibility for the economic destinies of our communities and nations. Point two, black persons and black institutions, especially the black church, join together as members in a large-scale cooperatively owned business enterprise to pull our resources. Number three, this cooperatively owned business enterprise is reflective of our unique cultural and interest in the world. Number four, the governance and legal form of the cooperative accommodate democratic principles of one member, one vote with elected leadership. Number five, only members of the cooperative and not the public have the opportunity to secure ownership, units, equity in the business enterprise with the potential to amass billions of dollars for community development. Number six, the cooperative focuses on opening and operating businesses in local communities that, number one, provide needed goods and services. 2, create new jobs. 3, stimulate additional businesses and activity. And 4, yield a fair profit. Number 7, the cooperative is driven to duplicate and expand into hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, all owned and controlled by the collective. Number 8, the net profits from overall cooperative success are used to, number 1, to reinvest. Number 2, for the distribution of grants and endowments. Number 3, direct returns, dividends, to member owners of our cooperative. Number 9, the large-scale cooperatively owned, group-owned business enterprise functions as a catalyst and a central element in building and sustaining the new Black economy, one that gives power to our people. Number 10, Us Lifting Us, Economic Development Cooperative, LLC, serves as the aforementioned model of this program. And with special note, these 10 points form the basis for the Black economic empowerment, the security and welfare of our people starts with our determination to control the economics of our community and nation. Black people and Black people alone hold the key to the gateway leading to their freedom. The philosophies and opinions of Marcus Garvey in 1923. Brothers and sisters, that is our 10-point appeal and plan for the new Black economy. And what we say in Us Lifting Us, it is here for you. It is here for us. Let us share. Let us come together and make this a reality for our people. Baba Kimbizi.
Yes, sir.
I know that there's a lot of problems in the society. I know brothers and sisters are, once again saddened in the prospects of jobs and will things be cut, because of how, this administration is. But if we understood and can embrace the idea of being collective, of pulling whatever monies we have, making whatever sacrifices that we need to make this happen, then we can, the feelings of gloom and doom that we have will be over, because we can realize the fact that through Us Lifting Us, we create a new paradigm. We create the reality for ourselves with us working together, pulling our resources, providing the goods and services that we need, providing the jobs that we need. Just like Baba said, we're going to create these Ulu cafes, or Cafe Ulu, and, with the coffee and internet cafe, and hopefully do them around the country in cities. I know we're trying to start here in Atlanta, but ultimately it would be beautiful if we, could have that Ulu Mart, that Ulu Mall in various cities. That would be fantastic. That'll be the vision. I know that's what we talked about when I first joined Us Lifting Us, and I'm proud to be a member, and I try to recruit other brothers and sisters to do the same. Baba Kimbizi, are you there with me? Hello.
I'm with you, brother.
Okay, right on. Okay. Yeah, sorry for that space. I was kind of like saying that, Us Lifting Us, the model, everything is done. When you go to the website, you see everything is right there for us. It's there, and I just wish that our people would look at that, embrace it, but more importantly, join it. Put their money down and become a member, and then put their money into buying shares, or creating the dividends that they that we can utilize to create these businesses, to fund these businesses, because that's what it's going to take.
Baba Oshi, the whole purpose of the second hour of our Thursday night broadcast is team member orientation and training, so that our members are equipped with the information to share with family members and friends that will help build and expand the cooperative. So tonight, our focus is on point number 7, which is the cooperative is driven to duplicate and expand into hundreds and eventually thousands of businesses, all owned and controlled by the collective. And I like what you were saying about a group-owned or a collectively owned business entity. And I always like to make sure that our members understand that ULU, us lifting us, yes, we are opening businesses, but more importantly, or equally importantly, what we are doing is building a global cooperative economy that allows us to increase our power and control the economics and the politics of the communities that we live in. These businesses and us lifting us, economic development cooperative, the focus of that is family-centered economics, or familyhood that builds an economy. So that a couple of things on point 7 immediately come to our attention. The first says that ULU duplicates. In other words, just like as Baba Hekima laid out in the previous hour, our flagship business is the market and exchange, which is the big box, the 125,000 to 150,000 square foot facility that encases the farmer's market, consignment space, vending space, weekly auctions, a thrift component, internet cafe and lounge. And so what we decided to do coming out of our annual meeting 2 years ago was to begin to open up Ulu Cafes, which is our internet lounge and cafe, in not only Atlanta, but in all the cities where we have Ulu members. So that's what we mean by Ulu is going to duplicate the businesses. We'll have Ulu marts in all the cities where we have significant population. We're getting some background noise from somewhere. And so one example of that is the Ulu Cafe or Cafe Ulu, so that these will be opening up in cities all across the country, in the Caribbean, and everywhere there's a sizable community of people who are of Black African descent. The second thing that Ulu talks about in the 7th point is Ulu expands, and that's a critical idea, Baba Oshi. What we're talking about, why the need for a cooperative economy rather than just us opening businesses and continuing to participate in the capitalist model that we find ourselves in. And if we take capitalism back to its origins in the 1700s, we quickly understand that capitalism became the economic handmaiden of white supremacy. In other words, when slavery was being eliminated, in order for this minority population of Europeans, who are only 1/10 of the global population, in order for them to continue to control the economics of their countries and the entire globe, they had to have a system that would extract wealth from all of the places where it operated and funnel that money to a small handful of people at the top. And so that if we look in our communities where we live today, whether it's the grocery store, the Krogers, or whether it's the Home Depots, or the Lowe's, or the Verizon cell phone service providers, all of these businesses are extraction models. They are driven to make maximum profit, and they become irrational at a certain point. But the whole purpose of them is to guarantee that the money flow from the hands of the people who live in those communities to the small minority of people at the very top, the 1%. And so we have to create a counter economy that allows us to harness the resources that flow through our fingers and distribute those resources back to our people to operate the businesses, the goods, and the services that we need. So that while we are opening up initially with a consumer platform in the Ulu market and exchange, as Hakima mentioned in the previous hour, we have a group of brothers who are scientists and engineers who have formed our technology group, and they are beginning to come up with solar panel and other projects, and that will allow us to have a manufacturing capacity. We also will have credit unions that's going to begin to allow us to expand into financial services. We will have research and development. We'll begin to get into manufacturing. All of these activities will be taking place in the spaces where our people live. So we're not just content to open a business here and there, but really what we're talking about is an economic movement, moving our people from the extractive and exploitive capitalist system to a cooperative system of group ownership that benefits our people and gives us the resources to move ahead. Let me pause there and let you jump back in, Oshi.
What you're saying, Baba Kambizi, is so much on point, and I'm hoping that our listeners who share this information so others can help, we can help others understand how important it is for us to grasp this concept, but more importantly, begin to promote it and invest in it and make it become the reality that it must be for us, for not just for us to have the goods and services, basically for us to have jobs and our survival. You know, you could see the way things are going in this country and what's happening here. It is going to get worse. And we need to understand that we need to rely on each other. We need to support one another. And us lifting us with the family economic model is the way to go, you know. But I know that it's only a matter of time before we, you know, get a couple things running and many people begin to see how serious it is and what great potential it has. And so therefore, others will start to join in, and others will start to invest and so forth. It has to come to that particular point, you know. But in number 7, you know, it says eventually thousands of businesses, all owned and controlled by us, the collective. And that could be not just states. It could be in the Caribbean. It could be, just as you stated earlier, wherever there's a large number of American, African, or black people of black African descent are and are willing to embrace this, we could have that happening there on the continent, in the Caribbean, wherever. You know, it has to come to that because, you know, in the capitalistic model, which is very, very devious, very evil, very predatory, you know, you have a small group of people, because even for Europeans, it's not working very well. You know, job loss and so forth, it's not working very well. So if you know it's not working very well for them, then you know it ain't working well for us because it never was intended to. It never was intended to. And so now is our chance. Now is our time. You know?
Yeah.
And I know that but I know that for so many decades and years, we've relied on Caucasians, Europeans, white folks to do something for us and to assist us and to allow us and so forth. And of course, they've given us the illusion of inclusion.
Yeah.
And we keep thinking that's what is going to happen, but of course it doesn't. And so what we must do, excuse me. So what we must do is, is listen to our brothers and sisters who have our best interests at heart and who truly want us to come together so we can do for ourselves, brother. Do we have the gentleman that's going to be on with us this evening?
He's scheduled to come on at 10:40. Brother Michael Campbell, and he's the owner and he started a media platform called Black on Purpose Television, and so we're anticipating a very good conversation with him at 10:40.
Okay, good. I was anxious.
His platform is another example of the ways that Us Lifting Us expands in the cities where our people live. If you think about, if you just take a survey of any large community of African Americans, whether it's in Atlanta or Chicago or L.A. or New York, in any city that our people live in, and you look around, we're here in Decatur, for example, and the problem, I remember being active with my daughter's PTA when she was a student at Southwest DeKalb High School, and they were looking at the business corridors around the high school, and that they were stagnant. There hadn't been any new motion in a decade. And most of the conversation that the people were carrying on had to do with they were upset because I think Quick Trip or one of another large gas station chain was thinking about coming in and putting in a gas station. And people say, well, we got enough gas stations. That's not what the need is in this area. We need some other businesses, not necessarily a gas station. And everyone was kind of looking around, waiting for some corporation, some white-controlled corporation, to come in and set up a business and create jobs and kind of revitalize the community. And what that showed me was that that's the difference that Us Lifting Us makes in our communities. Baba Hakima mentioned in the last hour that until we are able to exercise economic power, we're not at the planning boards where the redevelopment of communities take place. That's done by the Chamber of Commerce. It's done by these large corporations when they get together and figure out where they're going to set their next venture up. If you think about, for example, when the Atlanta Braves moved from downtown Atlanta up to Cobb County. Well, they didn't just move the Braves Stadium up there. They looked at that whole surrounding corridor and area and figured out all the secondary and tertiary businesses that would complement the stadium. They looked at the traffic patterns and how they would have to change the ramp to improve the traffic flow. Those kinds of conversations took place without necessarily the average day person being at the table to hear what the plans were and to see how all of that would take shape. But when you are involved in an economic movement, then we begin to participate in those kinds of conversations, and we can begin to shape what our community will look like decade after decade after decade. So that's why I said that Us Lifting Us is we're opening businesses, yes, but we also at the same time are an economic movement. We are a cooperative movement that puts our people at the decision-making table, that allows us to say how we think our community should look, what kind of businesses should operate in this space, and most importantly, to your point, Baba Oshi, we are the collective owners of each and every business that goes into those spaces. So when we walk into those businesses, not only are we getting the services and the goods that we need, but we also can be very proud of the fact that this is a business that we are invested in, and every time this business is successful and makes a profit, we can expect to see those returns show up in our bank account as well.
Outstanding. But when you mentioned what you just stated, I thought about Milwaukee. They were going to build which they thought was going to be a grocery store or a supermarket with fresh vegetables and so forth. Well, it turns out they're going to put a Dollar Tree. Well, the community was in an uproar about it, and it didn't happen. But unfortunately, I know we have Us Lifting Us members, because I was a member when I lived there. But what happened is another Caucasian grocery store moved into that location and are now going to be serving that community. And of course, one of the things is they talked about is having, fresh vegetables and so forth. But I mean, I looked at that situation when I was told about it, and I was like, wow, that would have been something really great, if we have Ulu and had Ulu members and we were, strong enough to go say, hey, we're gonna create a store at this location for this community. We're going to do it, and I still believe, I'm confident that these things are going to happen. They're not obviously happening overnight, but they're going to happen. And one success will breed other successes and so forth. And so that's where we have to go. These calls every Thursday, of the other calls with our board, the members' calls on Sundays, all these things are important to continue to drive the point home of the importance of what we're doing, of us lifting us, developing these economic cooperatives. But see, one of the things, even though Baba Hikima touched on the Mondragon model and some other models, a lot of our people are just not hip or aware or understand, cooperatives, because in America, in capitalism, the idea is for you to get money, you to be rich, the idea is for you to be an entrepreneur, and not understanding that the vast majority of those who go into business as entrepreneurs fail. They fail early on. Some are able to withstand those failures by coming back to get more people to invest in their businesses and so forth. But it is there for us, Baba Kambizi. It is there for us, and I think that as soon as our people realize, we're going to be in a better position. That's what I believe.
And you make an excellent point. What Ulu brings to our communities is group-centered, group-owned, family-centered, focused businesses, rather than businesses that have an individual focus. Too often the businesses that open up in our communities are owned by an individual or a small group, and their whole purpose of operating that business in our community is for them to make a profit and take those profits to the places where they live. What Ulu is proposing is when we open up a business in those communities, those profits stay in those communities. Those dollars circulate over and over and over. They turn over 3 times, 5 times, 10 times before the dollar leaves those communities. And so it has a synergistic effect in that not only does it cause the business to thrive, but it also supports the existing businesses around it. And that's how we have to begin to think about our communities and to look at how we improve our communities. What we haven't talked about it in a minute, Oshie, but there's one of the things that we have built into the Us Lifting Us platform is what we call ulu-based communities. And these are groups of 10 to 12 people or so who come together in a community and begin to research, begin to look at do the analysis of what does my community need.
Okay.
Then begin to talk with other members of that community and form an infrastructure that we then can build upon and begin opening businesses in that community. In other words, this means that black people in every city where they are can begin to form these base collectives, start doing the research and analysis in their communities, see what those communities need, and then launch a cooperative business in those communities that benefits them. The only thing that hampers our work and slows us down, Oshie, is that we don't have the vision of us doing this. That's one of the reasons why we refer often to the Mondragon model, is because this was a community much like black communities. They were discriminated against. They were looked down upon. Their towns had been bombed out from the Spanish Civil War, and they had nothing and nowhere to go. And they decided to work among themselves and to lift themselves. And they said, if we open up a capitalist business, we won't be able to improve our community. But if we do this cooperatively, we can transform every part of our community. Starting with one business in 1956, in the short span of 20 years, they had grown to over 200 businesses. They had gone to a point where they were generating $24 billion in revenues on an annual basis.
Wow.
Where they started with employing, I think, 11 workers. They now, as Barbara Hakima mentioned, are employing 100,000 workers, all in businesses that are group-owned, and the group benefits from the profits that they generate. That's what we want to do in our community, starting with one model, the Ulu Exchange and Marketplace, or Cafe Ulu, begin to build on that, expand to other businesses, employ more and more of our people, see that money turn over and over in those communities, and get to the place where we are self-sufficient and we don't have to beg other people to do for ourselves what only we can do for ourselves.
Ashe. And that's what we must come to understand. And that's why we are driving this point home. Somebody says, well, you keep talking about it as being repetitive or redundant. I said, no. What this is positive reinforcement. We are trying to help you clearly understand the potential that we have, and what we are saying could be the reality if we put it into practice. You just mentioned it happened. It happened with them. Do you think that anybody outside of us can do something that we cannot do? The only problem that we have, exactly. The only problem that we haven't put the energy and effort into doing it, into making it happen. I just feel that with the Cafe Ulu, with this emergence, is going to be one of the main catalysts, because it's going to be run efficiently. It's going to provide a good atmosphere for people to come to buy coffee, teas, or specialty drinks, maybe some pastries or whatever. The atmosphere would be good to maybe hold me, whatever. It's going to be something that we know It's going to be quality. People will respect it, and I believe people want to be. Then will want to be a part of it, and that's going to help facilitate us lifting us rise in our community. Of course, not just here in Atlanta, but across this country, and eventually where members of Black African descent reside, because we can all do this. We can all we can all make this sacrifice to do this.
Right. Another reason we continue to repeat this week after week, I heard someone say you can only actualize what you can visualize. And so we, in these conversations, in these training sessions that we do on Thursdays, is a way of drawing the picture, helping our people to visualize ourselves being in business on this level, being independent, being economically empowered, which quiet as is kept is the beginning of being really politically empowered. But we're right at 10:40, Baba Oshi. I want to ask DJ if Brother Michael Campbell has called in yet.
Well, I don't see his number here. There's nobody who has. Maybe this is him. I'm not sure. That's you, Baba Kambizi. So no, we don't have the caller yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I really was very interested in hearing what he has to say. You know, I'm so looking forward to finding out how his television program, how it operates, and so forth. Was really looking forward to that. You know, so once again, I think that we have a miscommunication, which is unfortunate, but we'll correct that. We'll correct that. Yeah. Also, too, Baba Kambizi, you know, when Baba Akima and DJ do their thing in the first half and to explain and talk about that, and we come with the training program in this half, you know, I think what's vitally important for us is to stay on this message, but also to give some perspective and some history, you know, because it puts everything in the context. You know, when you mentioned the fact that we had the opportunity to develop this model based upon what we have gone through, and to see others who have done it, it is there for us. You know, we can do this. You know, we can do this, and
absolutely. Give me one sec, Brother Ocean.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can get Michael Campbell on the phone, because we talked yesterday. So.
Okay, great. And I'll just continue to run my mouth while you go ahead and make that happen. Yeah. You know, brothers and sisters, we have to do this for the sake of our community, our family, our children, the next generation. We have to do this. And the sooner that it becomes a reality for us, the better it's going to be. But it's going to take a while, though. It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't get in this mess overnight, and so we're not going to get out of it overnight. You know, and what it's going to take for us is that we pool our resources, trust one another, respect one another. I think we all know all the things that have been said about us, all the ugly, vile, nasty things that have been said about us, and then we say them about each other. We call ourselves all these disgusting names. We disrespect our women and family, all these things that have happened. But it's not all of us. There's a lot of us in our community that have some pride. There are many of us in our community that still don't know about us lifting us. And hopefully if they did, and if they would understand the concept and be willing to support it. So, we have a lot of work to do, brothers and sisters. And you who are on the call, you who are listening online, I'm asking, and as we ask you each week, to share this information. Maybe conference somebody in on the call next week. Whatever can be done, we're asking us to do it. Make it happen. So.
Yeah. And that's another point, because this is family-centered economics. That means that we build this organization relationally. We reach out to family. We reach out to friends. We reach out to our sisters and brothers and share this idea and this movement with them. And so you're absolutely right. On Thursdays, we need people to call their friends together, have a gathering at their house or a central location, and more people come to the call and ask questions about us lifting us, get this information, and how they can plug in and go to work wherever they live.
And that's what needs to happen. It is no doubt in my mind that it will eventually be the kind of economic engine for our community that it intends to be, that it must be, that we visualize, that we discuss, that it will be. There's no doubt in my mind. I know, once again, as I stated earlier, we didn't get in this economic mess overnight, and we won't get out of it overnight. But we must be steadfast. We must be consistent. We must be doing it in a manner and a fashion that, hey, it's going to be a reality. It is going to be a reality, and not in the future, but but more in the immediate future. And now we're going to make it happen.
Right. So, as we were talking, it reminded me. I was looking at something that happened in a city in the state of Washington. Oh, it's been a couple of decades ago, but there was a plant that I think was owned by General Electric, and they were manufacturing iron. The people who worked at the plant back then, they were making close to $20 an hour. A lot of them had been working for the plant for 20 years or more. They were invested in the plant. The plant was one of the central employers in the city, and the plant was making money. It was doing okay. But because of the way capitalism operates, and because of this, hold on, Osha, I think this is the brother trying to call in. Okay.
And I understand what Baba Kambizi is talking about. You have, I remember a situation that talked about that they invested, they had a lot of time, and then the owner recognized how important it was, even though he was going to retire, but that he had these people who had worked there for so many years, and he just couldn't fathom that these people would let go because they're going to close it. So he turned it over to them. He turned that factory over to them, and they became a cooperative, and they began to run the factory. And now, because they had a stake in it, that they were owners of it, the productivity was even a lot better. So a lot of times, how they do profit in the capitalistic system, I'm just going to use a round figure. You made $1 million last year. You made $1 million in profit last year. But this year, you only made $850,000. You didn't make $1 million. You were short by $150,000. And so they usually, take that as a loss, or a shortcoming. But you still made a profit. You didn't make as much as before, but you still made a profit, you see. And so that's why sometimes when they do this, you know, I look at it like this, dear brothers and sisters. I look at it like this. If we don't do this, the economic uncertainty of these times and the tenuous position that we are in could have some devastating effects on us. And so therefore it's incumbent upon us to embrace this, to understand this, and to make this happen for us.
Okay, Brother Oshie.
Yes.
Hopefully Brother Campbell will be calling in just a minute.
Oh, okay, you made contact. Outstanding.
Yes.
And then when he calls in, did you tell him to press 1?
Let's give him a minute, then we'll tell him to press 1.
Okay.
I know you had picked up on what I was saying about that factory. Long story short, GE, because they could make more money producing those irons in Mexico, they shut down that plant. They moved it to Mexico, and they paid the Mexican workers less than $2 an hour. That's the kind of stuff capitalism does.
That's what happened in the Rust Belt, where I'm from.
Exactly.
You know,
yes, sir.
All those factories left and went to areas where they could get cheaper labor.
Right.
You know, and so that's what happened. And the reality is that you know, they were making a profit, but they weren't making as much profit as they want, especially if they can get labor far less expensive or pay people far less than what they're paying.
Right.
And that's what they'll do. You know? Right. And then well, I was just going to say, and then because of how the hierarchy started to deal, well, now you had CEOs who at one time, maybe in the 60s or beyond, maybe $15,000, $20,000 more a year, maybe 30, whatever. Now it's hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars more.
Right.
I mean, it's insane.
Right.
The CEO pay, it is insane. It's ridiculous. And so that's what created, and that's what happened to this society. Now that's why it is an oligarchy. It is not a democracy. It's an oligarchy. The rich dominate and control what's happening.
That's right. They control the politics. They control the economics. They control the media, and cause people to think that they're living in a democracy when, in truth, as you said, it's an oligarchy.
Right.
Brother Campbell, if you've called in and are on the line, we need you to press the number 1 on your phone, and we'll get you into the call. Do you see has his number shown up, Baba?
Yes, here he is. Yes, he is.
All right.
Good evening, my brother. How are you? Hey.
Good. How are you?
Good evening. You are on Us Lifting Us. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
So, you have a television program. Tell us about what you're doing.
Actually, it's a television network. It is the largest black-owned streaming television network in the world. It's called Black on Purpose Television. Its purpose is to show people of color around the world in a positive light without negative stereotypes. These stereotypes have really affected not just how people see us, but also how we view ourselves. So Black on Purpose Television has changed the game by developing our own platform with positive content that affects us and that shows us in a proper light.
Beautiful.
I was curious, Brother Campbell, how you came to be a member of Us Lifting Us and how you see that partnership working out.
Well, okay, yes. I'll tell you, I was at an event at my church, which is the Shrine of the Black Madonna, and Us Lifting Us was having their annual event there. And I came to the event. I received an invitation, and came, and just to see all the brothers and sisters there, business people doing their thing with a purpose, I just started asking around, getting some information, and I joined right on the spot. There was no hesitation.
Outstanding.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. Yeah. With the streaming program, how do you access that? You access it online?
Yes, so you watch it on Roku, the Roku device, if you're familiar with that. People are getting rid of cable TV. Okay, so people are getting rid of cable TV in favor of these new, what they call connected devices. It requires you to only just have internet in your house, and you connect this device to your TV. You get thousands of channels, and most of them are free. So you don't have to pay for Netflix. And this is not pirate or bootleg television. This is the real thing. You follow what I'm saying? So many people are out there selling these boxes and devices, but there's really no telling how long these will last as they're cracking down on the kind of pirated boxes. So this is the real deal. So Amazon Fire Stick is one that you can see us on, and also all smart TVs, Blu-ray players, and on TiVo worldwide.
Outstanding. What kind of programming are you providing? Are you some of the things of some of the older programs that have aired before? Do you do that, or what kind of program are you providing?
When most black TV networks come about, they tend to follow the same model. So they'll license Good Times, The Jeffersons, Martin Lawrence. I needed to get away from that, and I needed to give content creators with real messages and get a little bit away from what Spike Lee terms as coonery, buffoonery, and kind of get away from that and show some real things that can provide news, information, and positive images. So what I did, we've got actually over 5,000 shows that you can watch. It's kind of like the black Netflix. So there's 16 different channels. One's a kids channel. When you click on it, you get cartoons that are all by and for people of color. Things that our kids can watch that we can feel good about, and so can they, that they've never seen before.
Outstanding.
So there's a history channel, an education channel. So whether you want to see John Hendrik Clark, whether you want to see any of the historians, we have it all there. Some comedy. If you like old school, we got concerts by some great old school artists when brothers were singing about things that were not what they're talking about today, if you know what I mean.
I do. That's beautiful.
So, Brother Campbell, what do you see as the way Us Lifting Us and Black on Purpose TV partnership together? How does that work out in your vision?
Well, it's important that we have 1.5 million viewers every single day. So what happens is that is a laser beam targeted audience for black businesses with products or services in a laser beam way that regular TV can't give you. Nielsen Rating Company said that black people watch more TV than anybody else and buy more things off TV than anybody else. Using that logic, you would think they would make more commercials that reflect those people. But they don't, because supremacy rules the images that they show on television. So by advertising on Black on Purpose television, these businesses get in the game at a very low price and advertise laser beam targeted to the people that are going to buy, thus keeping that circle of money in our community.
That's fantastic. We only have about a minute left in the program, brother, and I definitely want to. I would love for you to come back again on Us Lifting Us, since you are a member, to further talk about it and how our listeners and brothers and sisters can access what you're presenting. I love it. It sounds great, and I know I don't have a Fire Stick. I got cable. So
it's time to ditch that cable. Get rid of that cable bill.
Yeah, it is, and it's big too. You're right.
I'm ready to do that. I'm definitely ready to do that.
Yeah.
We'll give Brother Campbell again. Bob Oshie, you better wrap us up because we're right at 11.
Right on. Well, Brother Campbell, thank you for coming. Thank you, Baba Kambizi, and of course for Brother DJ and Baba Kima in our first hour. Once again, brother, you're listening to the Motherland Media Network on Blog Talk Radio, and this is Us Lifting Us, Economic Cooperative LLC. Join us again next week, Thursday, from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m., right here on the Motherland Media Network. Brothers and sisters, we thank you, and we hope you have a good evening.